Caregiving can sometimes feel like an impossible struggle. Caregivers may be torn between taking care of loved ones and trying to maintain balance in life. The good news is that it doesn't have to be that way. The Caring Generation with host Pamela D Wilson is here to focus on the conversation of caring. You're not alone. In fact, you're in exactly the right place to share stories and learn tips and resources to help you and your loved ones. So now, please welcome the host of The Caring Generation, Pamela D Wilson.
This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert, speaker, consultant, and guardian of the caring generation. Thank you for joining me for this week's show, episode 208. Before we jump into this week's topic, which is how to do the hard stuff when you'd rather be doing something you enjoy. If you find this podcast helpful, please like it and follow it on your favorite podcast app. Your participation through likes and follows helps the show reach more people worldwide looking for hope, help, and support for their health, or when caring for aging or elderly parents, spouses, and other family members. Caregivers this week are asking how to do the hard stuff when daily life, work, family, personal goals, or emotions, or even guilt get in the way. Caregivers do a lot of hard things and gain skills they never imagined they might need. The hard stuff may be having a difficult conversation with an aging parent about health concerns, or talking to a sibling about sharing responsibilities of caring for an aging parent. The hard stuff may be making the decision to move an elderly parent to a care community. If you are a person with health problems or memory loss, the hard stuff for you may be writing up an estate plan, including choosing a power of attorney agent to make decisions for you when you can no longer do this for yourself. How do you know who to trust? The challenge with these decisions is that juggling caregiving for yourself or another person, daily life, and emotions can lead to feeling out of control in many parts of life. So how do emotions and guilt get in the way when caregivers work through the hard stuff like making decisions about how or if they can help aging parents, and then taking steps to help aging parents care for themselves and make thoughtful decisions? Specific to doing the hard stuff, today we'll talk about 4 things. 1. How to understand when a problem or question is more complicated than it looks, which is often the case with caregiving. There are often more details or challenges than meets the eye. A simple problem may appear to have a simple solution when, in reality, that solution is much more complex and detailed. 2. How emotions and feelings of guilt impact doing the hard stuff and making hard decisions. 3. Why waiting to deal with an emotional or uncomfortable issue may not make it easier in the future. And 4. The benefits of just getting in there and making progress with whatever it is that makes you feel stressed or uncomfortable. Let's start with number 1. How to understand when a problem or question is more complex than it appears. This idea falls into that category of we just don't know what we don't know. Here's a simple math problem to make complexity easy to understand. A baseball and a bat cost $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? The most common response for the cost of the ball is 10 cents. The correct answer for the cost of the ball is 5 cents. How do these numbers work? If you say the ball costs 10 cents, then the bat would cost $1 more, $1.10, making the total $1.20, which is 10 cents more than $1.10. The original statement of a baseball and a bat cost $1.10. The correct answer is that the ball costs 5 cents, making the bat cost $1 more, or $1.05, which when you add $1.05 and 5 cents together, you get $1.10. So what this example shows is that sometimes it's really easy to jump to a simple conclusion when the problem or the question might have a lot of other aspects that should be considered. This is why giving more thought and consideration to care, health, financial, legal considerations, and family relationships around care is very important. Let me offer an example related to caregiving. I recently talked to a caregiver about a Medicaid spend down. The caregiver understood the concept of spending down money to qualify for a state Medicaid program. What the caregiver did not consider is that applying for, qualifying for, and receiving Medicaid services can be a very lengthy process with several steps and a lot of details. Depending on the state and the county where you live, applying for Medicaid and being approved can take 1 month, 6 months, or a year. If you don't submit the application perfectly, it will be rejected, and then you have to start all over again. This can be challenging if your aging parents are out of money and can't pay for their care. Then who pays? Usually the adult children. Let's look at another example. Let's say mom and dad can't live at home anymore, and you're looking at long-term care communities, also called nursing homes. A nursing home may accept Medicaid as a payment source, but not have a long-term care Medicaid bed available. There may be a wait list of 3, 6, 9, 12 months. So this thinking about Medicaid is more complex than anyone imagines. It can take 12 months for an application. It can take another 12 months to be through a waiting list, right? So 12 plus 12, that's 24. You've got 2 years of waiting, which is why waiting to do the hard stuff and have discussions about care and money and legal and Medicaid planning can be disastrous if you wait too long and your parents need care today. Number 2, let's look at how caregiver emotions and guilt play into doing the hard stuff and making hard decisions. Where do emotions and guilt come from? For most people, emotions or guilt are gaps between behaviors, personal behaviors, and personal standards versus beliefs. Everyone experiences emotions differently. Some people live in their emotions, other people prefer to live in facts. Let's talk about guilt. Caregivers faced with making hard decisions often tell me they feel guilty, that they don't know how to deal with the guilt. Now, most of these caregivers did not create the situations and the decisions that their elderly parents are facing. These factors and decisions are part of their parents' life that the caregiver was pulled into by virtue of being helpful. So the caregiver didn't create the problem. The caregiver is just trying to solve the problem and feeling guilty about what they can or can't do. When caregivers look at guilt, what do they hear themselves saying? Do they say things like, I have to, I must, I didn't have a choice. This is what mom or dad expects. If you feel guilty and you're not saying these things, then look at areas of your life that you find to be emotionally difficult. Ask yourself, why are you struggling? Are you the caregiver who says, I believe I should help mother or father? If so, then look at your beliefs and the standards you carry that make this statement true for you. If this is your belief, to what extent do you believe that you should help your mother or father? Do you have a corresponding belief that says, I must put the needs of others before my needs? Does this mean that to take care of your parents, you are okay with getting physically sick, giving up your job, giving up your income, your retirement savings, getting divorced, because your spouse is not on board with giving up everything to care for your mom or dad? Are you okay with ignoring your kids because your parents come first? Are you okay with destroying your family relationships? Beliefs and standards are individual. They can come from culture or family expectations. This is why you will hear caregivers have very different beliefs about the duty and responsibility to care for an aging parent. Some caregivers go all in, giving up everything in their life, and then years later looking back and saying, gosh, what was I thinking? Why did I do that? There's nothing left for me. I can't even financially support myself. I can't get a job. I've lost my marriage. My kids hate me. On the other hand, other caregivers set boundaries and say, I can do this, but I'm not willing to do that. Neither is right or wrong. There's no judgment. Right or wrong is connected to each person's beliefs and standards, which can be the same or very opposite. A belief in the necessity to care for parents at the exclusion of everything else in life is one of the greatest differences between how adult children approach caregiving. This is why siblings always don't get along. This gap in beliefs and standards causes a lot of siblings to disagree. This gap in beliefs and standards ends family relationships because one or both sides dig in their heels instead of dealing with the emotional hard stuff and conversations that it can take to maintain and preserve family relationships. When one side wins at all costs and the other side loses, it is then difficult, if not impossible, to repair fractured family relationships where kindness and compassion, compromise, and consideration was not given. Do you see how benefits and beliefs and standards work? They can work for you or against you in all areas of life, not only caregiving. Let's move along to number 3. Why waiting to do the difficult stuff doesn't always make it easier. Simple question. When is it easier to solve small problems? When they're small and they don't take much effort. When a problem grows, it can become so big that it's difficult to know how to easily solve it. It's like that little noise you hear when you start your car. You ignore it because you're too busy. Doesn't seem like a big deal, and then all of a sudden your car doesn't start. And that little noise is a $1,000 repair. Life is like that. Being a caregiver with a decision to make, or a person with a health problem who ignores the problem, usually doesn't make doing the difficult stuff easier later. It also doesn't make it less expensive. Waiting to make decisions can mean that choices one might have had before are no longer options when that problem grows big and complex. A practical example of this is mom or dad with memory loss, Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, who doesn't want to talk about their health problem. They don't want to create an estate plan with powers of attorney, a living will, and a will. Now, mom or dad's memory loss is so far gone, so advanced, they don't even understand the choices before them. Attorneys refuse to draft documents because they say that your mom or dad is incapacitated. When medical evidence supports this statement, incapacitated, then drafting documents without an attorney can be questioned by siblings and other people. So now the only choice is to petition the court for guardianship or conservatorship, which can be more expensive, time-consuming, and emotionally distressing for your mom or dad, not to mention your family members. If only mom or dad would have had conversations, would have done an estate plan earlier, no one would be in this situation. As a caregiver, if your parents refuse, it is not your problem, although it does become your problem. Sometimes there's just no going back when discussions and making decisions and the hard stuff are put off too long. Number 4, Let's talk about the benefits of getting in there and getting whatever it is that makes you feel uncomfortable or guilty done. Few people enjoy having uncomfortable conversations. Few people want to look at how their personal standards or beliefs can cause problems for them. But in many cases with aging and health problems, considering the pros and cons, best and worst case scenarios, is exactly what caregivers and individuals need to do to avoid more problems and catastrophes and making decisions in a rush or under pressure. The benefits of dealing with difficult problems and coming up with solutions and options is that this experience helps you think more creatively about what might be possible, what other options exist. It also makes you more resilient when plans that you make may not work out as expected, which does happen a lot in caregiving. As much as we'd like to, we cannot predict the future. Dealing with the hard stuff has other benefits, like learning how to fail and working through those emotions of failure and anxiety and depression. Think about it this way. When things keep happening and you keep solving problems, you begin taking those hard things in stride. You're like, I've got this. It's just one more thing to deal with. Your confidence level rises. Fear and anxiety about solving problems becomes more manageable. Your patience level for dealing with the hard stuff grows. All of a sudden, these problems, these hard things, these annoyances become just one more thing you check off the list because you deal with them as they arise. You don't put them off for tomorrow, next week, next month, or next year. So if you're a caregiver stuck in limbo about doing the hard stuff or making decisions, there's more information on the website page for this episode 208 of the Caring Generation podcast that might be helpful for you. Go to my website, PamelaDWilson.com, click on the Media tab, then the Caring Generation, and scroll down the page to episode 208, where you will find the show transcript and a video on the topic of doing the hard stuff. I thank you all so much for being here. Please like and follow this podcast on your favorite app. Share it with others you know who are seeking hope, help, and support. I'm Pamela D Wilson, a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. I look forward to being with you again soon. God bless you all. Sleep well tonight. Have a fabulous day tomorrow, and enjoy each day until we are here together again.
Tune in each week for the Caring Generation with host Pamela D Wilson. Come join the conversation and see how Pamela can provide solutions and peace of mind for everyone. Here on Pamela D Wilson's The Caring Generation.